Hey everybody, Mike Roach here. Today I wanted to cover how to calculate your cubic footage for firing in a wood firing workshop. So what I have in front of me is a bunch of bricks, a couple of kiln shelves, and just a variety of pots to work with. The things that I find to be really important to take into consideration are, for one, the actual brick sizes or post sizes that your specific kiln site uses, which could be really helpful. In general, there are some standards, being about a 2.5 inch brick, 4.5 inch bricks, 9-inch bricks, and then from there, I know for us, we have a lot of bricks that are in that 7-inch range as well, just because it tends to be a pretty common size. Kiln shelves for me are all 12 inches by 24 inches, which makes it very easy to calculate your footage. So I'm going to start off today by talking about 1 cubic foot. 1 cubic foot is a really small amount of space for a wood firing, but oftentimes it does come out where people are just looking to sample, or they are hoping to fly out and visit, but they're traveling with pots and can't bring a lot. So for 1 cubic foot, we could think in terms of a 12-inch wide, 12-inch long, by about 11-inch tall, as far as if we're thinking about pots, and anything that we could fit within that realm, we could get into that kiln. So I have a couple of larger vessels here. All right, we could just think about that placement. And again, if we're doing this, we still do need to consider those kiln posts, right? Because there's probably going to be pots above it or around it. So on that one, you'd probably be looking at about 2, maybe 3 vessels, right? Kind of at most, if they were pretty skinny, really wedging them in there, but that would really eat up that space quickly. A lot of folks end up going for more about that 6-inch height, and they'll do 1 full kiln shelf. One of the things to really take into consideration is that we're stacking for results, not volume. With wood firing, it's really important that you start to have these kind of, as I like to call them, mountains and valleys, right? These taller pots and these smaller pots, so that you can start to create shadows that they cast off one another, so that you bounce that flame around. But not only that, you create these kind of bare areas or these moments for this incredible, beautiful flashing. So I'm going to use my 4.5 inch post here. I'll grab some of me taller kind of cups. If I want to think about stacking things such as plates nestled in there, I can most certainly consider that. But if I am going that route, I'm going to think about being really efficient with that space. Right, so we could think about stacking. That might be, oh nope, that's perfect. Perfect on that height. So again, some variety, some taller pieces, some bigger pieces, some denser areas, and some areas where there's breathing room. Just for good fun, we'll throw in that little monster. All right, so once we account for that wadding on it, we might be able to go a little bit more, but given that I don't actually have 5-inch kiln shelves, mine are at 4.5s, this is pretty much what you'd be looking at 1 cubic foot of space. For 2 cubic feet, obviously, again, we could think about 1 row going straight across, so we could figure this full shelf just packed with those vessels. Again, the big thing, and I think I will walk us through that right now just to see it, but that big thing is if we pack them with these vessels, there's always a fair amount of space that gets lost. Now that's not a bad thing, right? Because those vessels might be absolutely incredible, and who cares about volume when you got quality? But if you're looking to really think about getting a large variety in, or if you're thinking about production in any standpoint. Then you would just think about, in terms of your vessel shapes, how you can really get comfortably as many in as possible. All right, maybe one more. Right, but you're going to wind up with some of those little gaps, which you may either have to make tall, skinny vessels to change your shapes, or they're just going to get filled most likely with pieces like this, because when you think about it, right, that flame and that ash comes in, having this kind of low blocker might be really, really beautiful to kind of create these different markings on them. All right, so now what I'm going to do is stack for 2 cubic feet using 2 kiln shelves. And we'll clear up some of these larger boys. Right, and for me, for example's sake, I'm really going to break it down into, say, about a 7 or 6 3/4 and a 3. Again, so with that 7, I am going to go for some pieces that are shorter, some that are taller. Again, I want that great kind of variety. As best as possible, I don't want any of these pieces to overhang. Not to say they won't when we really fire the kiln, but just to really make sure that you have that proper volume, which allows us to load very smoothly and ensures that everyone gets their fair share of pots into the kiln. Again, we'll get some shorter ones, some taller ones. I love having some little skinny pieces like this because they'll go right in front of different pieces and just create these fine lines where you don't have that heavy volume of wood ash there. Another thing that I think about a lot is pieces on their sides. So sometimes a nice thick bowl up on its side, right? And that will change the height of it a pretty fair amount. We'll create a really interesting angle for that flame to come in. Let's see, maybe we could still fit that character. There we go. All right, and then for that smaller one, right? We'll go back to our plate. At least one little piece on top of it. I think about how a sculpture would go. We could stack that on seashells. Balance that out. Nice little set of double stacked tiles. And then maybe some mini pots just to fill that void. So that right there is what I would be looking at for your 2 cubic feet. Obviously anything beyond that, you can double it or figure out your math from there. Always communicate, right? Reach out first. It doesn't hurt to bring extra pots to the firing, but definitely don't glaze any extra pots until you know we're at that stage where you really need more to fill the space. And I can't really overemphasize enough that it is about creating these different relationships. It's about putting one piece in front or on top of one another and allowing every piece to contribute to the next one and having kind of a conversation with that flame, rather than having these incredibly dense, packed shelves that the flame essentially needs to just almost filter its way through in a real consistent manner. For me, when I fire, what I'm looking for is those really dramatic results and that kind of beautiful chaos. So it's very important that we can play around with shelf heights, with piece heights, and really, like I said, having those kind of mountains and valleys as you look throughout your kiln shelf. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to firing with you someday. All right, y'all. Peace and love.